I'll make sure that, oh, we do have it recording. Okay, good. Sorry about that. We do have them recorded, and as a matter of fact, let me pull this up. We can get you the PDF as well in a few moments. That way you can follow along either there or with that presentation. But you'll have that, and it'll have all the videos. All of the links will be available to you. So here you can just kind of take in all this information. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at this first video. It's going to show us how to share docs and how to leave and resolve comments.
For starters, we'll probably want to add group members. So to do that, go in the upper right-hand corner and click on Share. And before you start sharing other document members, you're going to have to give it a title. So I'm going to call this group assignment number 1. And I'll click Save. And here is where I'll be able to add people. So I can add other MSU students or faculty. So let me add a few members here. And what's cool about this is if someone doesn't want to use their MSU Drive account, they can use just their regular Gmail. So I'm going to add a couple Gmail accounts here. And once you've done that, click Share and Save. And it's asking me, hey, these 2 members that you've added are not part of the MSU organization. Are you sure you want to add them? And in this case, yes, I do. So once you've added everyone that's going to collaborate on this document, just go down to the bottom left corner and click Done. Okay, so I've skipped ahead a little bit. I've opened a document that's partially finished, so you can start to see what the comments feature looks like, and so I can show you how it works as well. So in this document, you can see there's this is actually my script for this screencast, and I can kind of scroll through. You'll start to notice these highlighted sections. These are areas where comments have been added. So if I click on that, this comment will show up here, and you can see that I've been collaborating with Goodrick 89 on this document to kind of get some input on what I need to change, what might need to be updated. If I wanted to make a new comment, all I would need to do is click and highlight on a certain part of the document. Next, I right-click on it, click on Comment, and there you can see it adds a new comment field. So I can say there's a misspelled word. And then once I'm finished with that comment, all I have to click is Comment. And there it's been added. Now let's say that I'm finished with the comment, or I've updated the comment here. All I have to click is Resolve, and you'll see this comment will now go away. And it doesn't delete the comment entirely. What's great about the comment feature here is when I click on comments in the upper right-hand corner, it actually tracks historically all the comments that we've made. So we can kind of go back and see what other collaboration has happened. It may not have been something that I've edited, but other collaborators have added something or taken something out. So you have kind of a record of the different changes that have been made throughout the document's history. So once I'm finished with that, I can click on Comment, and I can go through and see there are other comments here, and I can make my updates. So again, it's a real powerful feature to track comments. You can all be working in the document at the same time and actually see the changes that others are making. So, so it's super useful.
All right. Here we go. Now we have a little bit of an idea of how to share with Google Docs, how to make comments. Now let's go ahead and move over to the next slide and take a look at how you would email your collaborators to let them know that your document that you've already shared with them is ready for feedback or for them to contribute ideas. So we'll go ahead and pop this in here real quick. I'm going to restart it because it's pretty fast, but you're just going up to File, scrolling down to Email Collaborators. You'll see the collaborators already added to the list. You're just going to give it a subject name and leave a message and go ahead and click Send. Super simple, super fast, super easy. But it's one of those things that even I didn't use it very often before, but I just didn't really even think about it being there. And it's just another one of those ways to streamline that collaboration process. It's another great tool. But let's also take a look at how to make and accept suggestions.
Now meet Wayne. Wayne has a few ideas on how to improve the article. Even though he does have can edit permissions, so he could edit the document if he wanted to, he essentially wants to make suggestions on how Steve might say some things differently. Before editing the document, Wayne changes his editing mode to suggesting. This will allow him to leave his ideas, and Steve, or anyone else with editing permissions, can accept or reject the suggestions. It's important to know that anyone with can edit permissions can change their editing mode between editing, suggesting, or viewing, while those with can comment permissions can only leave comments or make editing suggestions. Later, when Steve reopens the doc, he can see Wayne's suggestions. After reviewing all changes to the doc, Steve decides to accept Wayne's suggestion.
And there you go. So if you take a look there, making suggestions and adding comments to a document, they're pretty similar. Making suggestions, like we mentioned before, if there's something that you think should be changed, but you don't necessarily want to modify that sentence or the word quite yet, you can make that suggestion, and your collaborator or your colleague can go and accept that, and it'll just change it for them rather than going in and making those edits themselves. Making comments might be a good way to make suggestions to your students, so to give them something to think about, and then they can make that change in their own words. Just another great tool to support collaboration. So now that we've taken a look at Google Docs, let's jump over into Padlet, which for me, we use it pretty often here over in the AT department, and it's just another great tool that allows you to create flexible bulletin boards where ideas, documents, files, photos, websites, and drawings can be shared with your students, with your colleagues. And a few ways that you can use Padlet in the classroom are by doing informal assessments, studying current events. Your students can use it for note-taking. You can conduct surveys, get ideas from your students, and you can even do storytelling activities. So for formal assessments, you can post a question about the lesson and review your students' responses. Studying current events would be where you could post recent news articles relevant to what your students are learning about. Note-taking, like I said, it's pretty straightforward. Your students can take notes or post questions related to that lesson. So for example, your student, we'll take a look at the Padlet here in a second, but your student can create a card for each of the topics that you're going to discuss during that lesson, and then they can comment or plug in some information that they're learning throughout, or even make note of any questions they might have about that topic or lesson. And you could even do the same thing on your end and create a Padlet with those topic categories for your students to plug in that information as well. Surveys and ideas could be where you pose a question where your students can provide feedback on their understanding of a topic or how to improve their learning environment. You could even, out of the way, you could even do some storytelling where you have a fun way to engage your students through collaboration. So you could pose a scenario and ask your students to expand on what happens next. They can take turns, or they can work in groups to write their own adventure. So let's move on over here to our next slide, and we have a couple videos here. They're pretty short, but they give you an idea of how to promote student collaboration with Padlet. And then the second video here will also kind of give you some of those basics as an educator to get you started. But let's take a look at this first video to promote student collaboration.
In the past, collaboration among students was limited to group time. Well, with the exception of a past note or two. But nowadays, the exchange of ideas isn't limited to classroom time. Teamwork can happen on a whole new level, a virtual one. There are so many digital tools that allow students to record, organize, and share their ideas both inside and outside of school. And these tools can be used in lots of cool ways. One tool that fosters this type of anytime, anywhere collaboration is Padlet. Imagine a digital sticky note tool that allows your students to add text, images, and even multimedia to a shared board. Students don't even need a login to use it, though you might want to create an account for yourself so that you can store all the boards you or your students build in one place. From your lessons hook to the wrap-up, Padlet can help you host a virtual discussion group, pose a question for an exit ticket, or collect student work. By providing a shared space for group project planning, students can ask questions, organize materials, suggest resources, and discuss what they've learned with each other. You can also add suggestions and comments to their boards to help prod their thinking. This just-in-time way to collaborate is so valuable. All of your students, from the vocal ones to the quiet ones, can have a voice on Padlet by contributing to their group's work.
Awesome. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this video over here to the right. That'll just give you some basics as an educator to get you started. Another short video here.
Head over to Padlet.com and create a free account with your email address. Once you have signed up, create your first Padlet. The first step is to select a format. I'll select Wall, which packs content in a brick-like layout. Now it's time to customize your wall. Students don't need to create an account. They can use this code for access and you can personalize it. So this one we will change to library. And now I'm going to change the title to reading recommendations. Now that the Padlet is ready, let's add post. Begin by tapping the plus icon and type in the box. You can add links, videos, photos, and many other elements to a post. For this one, I'm just going to use Google search to display the book cover. Now that you have a Padlet with a post, you're ready to share with your learners. Share the link or code with your students. This is how they will access Padlet and start adding content to your wall. For more instructions and tips on how to use Padlet, visit the links in the description below.
There we go. So now that we've kind of taken a look at ways to promote student collaboration and watch a short video on how to get you started, we'll take a look over here at the Padlet that we have set up for this session and look at the examples that we have set up. I don't have a video in the presentation for formal assessments, but that's something that I can take a look at for you and get that resource out to everyone. But as you can see over here, we've got an example of storytelling. So you can start off with a prompt to, once was a boy who lived in a shoe, and your next card lets the students know that you're going to continue the story below. You've got a picture of the shoe, and it looks like here we've got the first student has contributed that he had so many siblings, there was always something to do. So students can add comments to that next card. They can continue on the story with their own card, and you can just kind of get a running story going on there, and it just, again, promotes collaboration between your students and you with your students, kind of engaging that creativity Over here, we've got a lesson. Maybe you're talking about Mesopotamia. So you can start off with a visual here of where Mesopotamia is located and move on. You've got some cards below that present some facts about Mesopotamia. So Mesopotamia means the land between two rivers. And you've got an image here that's a little more detailed than the one above. So you've got the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, just kind of illustrates that meaning. And you, again, students can contribute thoughts or ask questions relating to that topic card. Down here, we've mentioned that videos can be included. So Mesopotamia is known as the beginning of civilization. So you can include a video here from YouTube or another source that kind of gives them an idea. And it just talks to them a little bit about Mesopotamia and gives them a different way of engaging with that content. What's pretty cool about this is, as you can see, it's right in the window. You can play the video. It just loads right up. They have the story to, just like they're watching it on YouTube, pause. They can go directly to the YouTube site to watch it, or they can pop it out in a different window just to give them another way, another option of viewing that content. Again, adding comments about what they've learned. How accessible is Padlet? Will VoiceOver read it? Low vision students. Is it mobile friendly? Padlet is mobile friendly. It's fairly accessible. The VoiceOver option, that it may be a little trickier to work out, but we could probably figure something out. In terms of VoiceOver with extensions, I'm not entirely sure about that just because we haven't used it in that capacity yet, but that's something I could definitely look into for you. If you don't need an account to access, how do you keep people you don't want off your Padlet page? So you can make your Padlet private so that they're required to sign in, so that they have a password, that your page is password protected. This one's just kind of set up to where anybody with the link right now can access that page. So anybody in this presentation should be able to do that. Padlet in Google Classroom. So it's another one of those things. It's another option. I'm not super familiar with Google Classroom, but if the features are fairly similar, then it's just another way of engaging your students. It's another, I'm guessing Google Classroom is just as mobile friendly as well. So you should be able to access them on different devices. But yeah, it's just another option. So let's move on over here. Again, you've got some more topics of content that you can talk about with your students. They can add, they can contribute, they can ask questions. And this, you can kind of do an informal assessment this way. But we also have an example here of surveys. So you can ask your students what way they learn best and provide them with the opportunity to let you know. We have a little code here. So if they feel like they're an auditory learner, they hear things better, they can code their card purple. If they're kinesthetic learners, code it green. If they are visual learners, code it red. And you can see some of the participants have responded. And one thing too to note about the anonymous, so if they're signed in, you can have it set to say their name so you know who's commenting, who's contributing what to the Padlet itself. Otherwise, if they're not signed in, as you can see, you'll see the anonymous name tag. You can also turn that off as well if it's not that important to what you're doing. But down here, you'll see we got a visual learner that added a drawing. So that's just another one of those dynamic features that Padlet provides. So it's just another way of engaging. And so now we've got another user who feels they are a kinesthetic learner, which is awesome. And there you go. So this is just Padlet. is another one of those tools that's going to help you support collaboration between you, your colleagues, you and your students, and you could even set it up to connect with the parents of your students as well. Just think of if you're supporting collaboration with your colleagues, you can take some of these ideas, these examples that we've used for lessons, and kind of switch them over to topics of discussion for maybe a particular section of curriculum that you're going to take a look at, and you can section it out, and your colleagues can go ahead and contribute ideas as well. Again, just another great tool. But let's hop back over here to Flipgrid and take a look at this awesome tool. It's one of those things that I wasn't too familiar with before putting this presentation together, but after getting to know it a little bit, it's a really cool collaboration tool that, but the first thing that I want to let you know is Flipgrid is free for everyone. So for you as an educator, for your students, and for families. So what you do is you can sign up for an educator account and start making your grids. Your grids, you can think of that as your class. So again, this may be similar to Google Classroom, but it's just another one of those platforms that you can use to engage your students. And what they would do is you have your grid, so that's your classroom. You create topics within your grid, and your students can respond to the question or the prompt by recording a short video. So Flipgrid, it's just a great tool that's going to help foster video-based discussions on classroom topics. And it looks like Michelle has posted a couple links here in chat just to give you some resources. You'll be able to access those through the PDF as well. But that first link there, Remote Learning for Flipgrid, that just kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that you can do to engage your students and their families during remote learning. The second link there on the screen is the Educator's Guide. So this one it's kind of like an instruction manual. It'll give you some information on how to create your grid, how to manage your grid, create topics and manage those as well. It gives you an idea of the controls and some of the lingo that's used, just so you have an idea of what you're seeing as you're navigating through that platform. So let's go ahead and move over here. I've got a couple short videos again for you, just to kind of give you an idea of how to get started, and also an example of sharing your grid with your students and how to create video assignments. So let's go ahead and take a look at the short video on how to get started.
Head over to Flipgrid.com and create a free Flipgrid account with your Microsoft or Google email address. Once you've signed up, let's create your first grid. Your grid is your class, so I'll name mine 6th grade reading. Select a grid type. I'll select school email, which will allow my students to access the grid using their school email address. If you're teaching younger learners without emails, you can choose the Student ID option. Students do not need to create an account. They will use this code to access the grid. You can personalize it, so I'm going to make mine Remote Reflection. Limit access to the grid by entering your school emails. Enter everything after the @ symbol. Add multiple emails for students and educators. Now that your grid is created, you'll see that we have automatically created a discussion prompt to help introduce Flipgrid to your learning community. Let's make a new discussion prompt. In Flipgrid, we call those topics. You can add links, videos, or anything you want your learners to view prior to recording a video response. Or hop on over to the Disco library, where there are thousands of ready-to-use topic templates available. Now that you have created your topic, you are ready to share with your learner. Share the link or code with your learning community. This is how your students will access Flipgrid and start posting videos. For step-by-step student instructions and more resources to help you use Flipgrid, check out the links in the description below.
Awesome. And so this next video, sharing your grid with your students and creating video assignments, it's a little bit longer. It's about 5 minutes, but it's going to give you some great explanations as to how to do these, use these features.
How do I get students into this grid? Well, basically, if they sign up on flipgrid.com and use this code, they'll be added to the class. And so hopefully at this point, you've shared the grid with your students, they've activated their accounts, they've logged in. And at this point now, we can add a new topic to this grid just by clicking New Topic. And think of a topic as being kind of like an assignment. It's an audio or video assignment that the students will have to do. So topic title, I'm going to call this Spanish Autobiography. I want the students to tell us a little bit about themselves in Spanish. If I want to, I can give some tips here. Maybe think about what makes you interesting or different. So there's my tip. I can adjust the topic date if I want to, and how much time do I want to give my students to answer this question. I can click to add or subtract minutes. Do I really want to listen to 5 minutes of Spanish autobiography? Maybe, or maybe not. I could also go as low as 15 seconds. So those are some nice options that you have as the teacher. I'm going to set it to be 2 minutes. Underneath that, there's an option for a description. So here I can say, tell me about yourself using at least 5 complete Spanish sentences. Help me get to know you better. Now I can also use some formatting. You can see there's some tools here, including links. I can highlight text, click the hyperlink button, put in the URL, and then that would become a link. Browsing down the page a ways, I'll get to some other settings. I could turn on video moderation, and I'm sure you can figure out why that might be important. So you as the teacher would have to moderate the responses that are given. Next, my topic status. I can make this an active topic, or I can freeze it, or turn it off completely by making it inactive. There's also options for launch and freeze dates, which is pretty cool. You can turn it on and off if you'd like. Next, I can provide some resources for this topic. I could record a video of myself, maybe explaining what they're supposed to do, giving them an example of what they're supposed to do. And this is what most teachers provide as a topic resource. But you could also upload a video. You could add a video that already exists. You could upload a picture, add an emoji, etc. Also, you can add attachments, but these have to be cloud-based attachments, Dropbox, Google Drive, etc. And then finally, there are some video features. You can let the students use stickers and drawings, or just stickers, just drawings, or none. You can allow students to react to posts and to do student-to-student replies. So these are all features you should consider. And then finally, you can provide some feedback, either just basic feedback, or you can customize feedback that the students will receive based on a rubric that you make to give some feedback to those students. For now, I'm just going to leave it as the default feedback, basic feedback. All right, before I create this topic and move on, I'm going to go ahead and record a video giving my students instructions for this Flipgrid topic. All I have to do is click record a video, and it opens up a box for the camera on my computer. Now it's asking permission. It wants to know if it can use the microphone and the camera on my computer. So I'll click allow, and it's warning me that I may have to click allow a few more times. And so I'm going to click retry, and I'm just going to click this record button. I get a countdown. Hi students, for this assignment, create a video that uses at least 5 Spanish sentences to tell me about yourself. Here's an example, and I'll stop there. At this point, I'll click the next button. This is my chance to review how I did in the video. If I want to, I can trim out the beginning or trim out the end of the video. And notice it's giving me options to add more recording if I want to, just by clicking this button. And by trimming, I've recuperated some of the time that I've already used. I'm going to restore this back to the full video and then click Next. At this point, I can snap a selfie to go with this recording. I can also add some stickers and other things to that selfie if I'd like to, but I'll just click Next. It's now uploading my video, and it looks like it worked. I can click Complete, and there is my topic resource. At this point, I'm ready for students to use this Flipgrid and to reply to the Flipgrid, so I'll click in the bottom right corner on Create Topic. Success! It says it worked, and it gives me a code and a link to my Flipgrid. but also to this exact topic, to this specific activity that I want my students to do. So if you need to link directly to this activity, that's what you would copy and post, this particular link. I'm going to click Got It, and then I'll go back to my Spanish 1 Flipgrid. And now when students click the link or go to my Flipgrid, however they get there, they're going to be able to watch and listen to my video, and then they're going to be able to click a record button to record their responses to my video, and I'll be able to watch each of their recordings.
All right, awesome. So as you can see, Flipgrid is a pretty cool
How do I get started?
Tool for collaboration. It's just another one of those things you can add to your collaboration toolbox if you're already using something else. But as you can see too, you can kind of connect with your students in a different way than we're used to, but it's something that, because of what we're doing with distance learning, it's just another way to kind of engage them in a creative way. The max length, so in the controls, when you're setting up your topic, you have the option, I believe the max that it went up to was 5 minutes. So you can have something as short as, I believe, 30 seconds, and it comes up into increments of 30 seconds, I think a minute, and then 2, and all the way up to 5 minutes. So it keeps it pretty short, but gives them also enough time to get their thoughts out and create something that's worthwhile. So let's move on over here. So now we've got a couple of minutes here that what we're going to do is, okay, perfect. Yeah, we can do that. We're going to take a couple minutes here to send you guys off into breakout rooms. There should be 3 rooms set up. And so we've got people randomly assigned to groups. We're just going to make sure that everybody's in a room real quick so that we can send you off. But what we'd like for you to do is to come up with some ideas on how to use the tool that is assigned to that room, and how you might use that to collaborate with your colleagues, with your students, with the parents of your students. And go ahead and choose somebody as a note taker. You don't have to take notes, but just keep track of some of those ideas that your group is discussing, so that when you come back, you can share that out in the chat box or over the mic with the rest of the group. But what we'll do is we'll send you off here in a second, and at the conclusion, you'll get a notification to join that room. And then at the conclusion, you should get about a 30-second warning to let you know to wrap up your thoughts and before coming back. And then from that point, we can share out what you guys have talked about.
Brian, I just want to make sure that you're sending the interpreters over with Haley to her group.
Yes, that's one of the things that we're going to try and make sure that we do as well, just to keep everything perfect.
No, thank you.
Of course, no problem. So when Michelle is ready, she'll go ahead and launch that breakout room for you guys, and then we'll get you off so that you can start collaborating with each other, and then come back and share some of the ideas that you've come up with. Awesome. All right. All right, awesome. It looks like everyone's starting to make their way back to the main room. So, excuse me, if your note takers, let's see, let's take a look. And note takers for your rooms, if you want to go ahead and just post some ideas in chat, just to let us know kind of what you talked about, that would be awesome. Awesome. Looks like Natalie is telling us that Flipgrid can be fun for kids to post videos, and it seems very user-friendly. I definitely agree with that. It can be a great way to engage your students and their families. That is something, Mary, that you'll have to kind of take a look at. We can dive deeper into that just to kind of see if there's ways that we can simplify some of those ways to connect. So maybe through parent instruction, parent engagement can help out with those students with lower cognition. Natalie, again, Padlet can be a group activity to check for comprehension after instruction. Yeah. Collaborating with teachers and your staff and your team. Padlet used as a posted board for parents and teachers to use for homework. Yeah, definitely. Something that you could do there. Kristen, Flipgrid can be used for kids to reflect on assignments and report what they are able to do that day. Most definitely. Let's see. Anything else? Really like the use of Flipgrid to record myself giving instructions for the parents to do instruction with their student. Yep, definitely, Steve. Great. So yeah, it looks like you guys have really taken to Flipgrid and Padlet. It's awesome. So hopefully there's a couple things that you can do with your students that, again, because we're in a time where distance learning is going to be something that we'll be doing for at least the next extended period of time here. It's just another way to engage your students rather than, you know, just kind of emails or phone calls or just that. It's a connection, but it's almost like a disconnect. This just kind of, these tools just kind of help streamline that process and bring you guys together. Especially with Flipgrid, where if you've got, as somebody mentioned, you can record yourself giving instruction. It's nice to put a face to that voice so that your students do have that connection, and also your the parents of your students as well, so that they can support their children and their children's learning. Yeah, definitely, Steve. Use Padlet for staff announcements and collaboration now that they're able to participate more. Awesome. So now we've got, we're going to move into our last poll here. So this poll is, we're not going to share the results. This one is just more for me to get some information. So if you would like more information about one or more of the tools, you can go ahead and select the tools that you want to know more about, and then that will let me know what you're looking to dive deeper into, and then I can contact you via email, and we can get some more information and then set up a time to kind of do that deep dive. But let's take a minute here and answer that poll while I read Mary's question, and then we'll jump into the Q&A in a couple minutes. That's a good question, Mary. I'll think about that for a second, and then we'll start off our Q&A with your question there.
I think I'm still seeing the old poll.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Let's get this up for you. Thanks for that. Got so many screens open here, it's getting a little crazy. There we go. That's a great point, Natasha, using Flipgrid for I do, you do lessons for parents and students. I like that. Definitely, Natalie, not a problem. Yeah, just kind of get in there, play around with a couple of these tools. I know for me, Flipgrid was something that was pretty new. So just kind of learning about that, I had to play around with it a little bit just to kind of get a basic idea. So yeah, just get in there and play around. And if at any point in the future you do feel like you're ready to dive into some of these tools a little bit deeper, then you can definitely just send me an email and we'll set up a time to do that deep dive. All right, and Michelle just reminded me that PCOE is planning on purchasing licenses for Screencast-O-Matic, which I'll talk about in my session later today about developing dynamic learning activities. But that, since everybody's kind of responded to the poll there, I will go ahead and move into the Q&A, and we'll start off with our first question from Mary about what program might be best to record videos for student lessons. And on that note, Michelle did mention Screencast-O-Matic. That is something that I use quite often to do how-to videos, instructional walkthroughs for people that are kind of trying to learn about how to use programs. So that could be a way for you to record your lessons, but an accessible way to do that is Flipgrid, definitely. You can record a video of yourself giving instruction, but Screencastify is another option that you could use that's built into the Chrome browser. So that gives you the ability to record your screen and also have yourself in the bottom corner so that, again, there's a face to your voice and just kind of gives that extra connection. So let's see, let's take a look at some of these questions here. Will you be our contact for these and other online tools this semester? Boomcard, Screencastify, Screencast-O-Matic? Yes, definitely, Natalie. If you have any questions about these tools that we talked about today, or if there's another tool that you're kind of curious about going forward, you can always just send me an email and we'll set up a time to kind of do that deep dive and take a look at how we can help you or support you incorporating that into your collaboration toolbox, or even just using that in your virtual classroom. I did take a look, Flipgrid compatibility with screen reading software. Because Flipgrid, so in terms of looking at the topics, if you're doing it through mobile, you should be able to use the Apple VoiceOver. I'll have to take a look and see if the web-based version, I assume it does have the ability to have the screen reading done so that they can.
So Brian, and I don't know, this is probably a bigger question. So specifically for if districts are using that, I guess, and I can talk to you about this later, is, and this is a small percentage of our kiddos use the JAWS screen reader as opposed to the Apple VoiceOver. So we run into glitches when they're, using that to navigate, because there's specific control commands for that program, and sometimes it gets glitchy. So that's where, and I guess that could be a question for like our VI tech people out in the,
Yeah, definitely. That's something we can definitely look into. I know that with JAWS, like you had mentioned, there's some glitches that kind of occur there, and it very well could just be that it's a third-party software, so maybe their compatibility just isn't quite there yet.
Right.
But we can take a look at that and see if that's one of those voiceover softwares that is compatible with Flipgrid. The kind of the workaround with that, I guess, is the video component of it. So with that, when you're recording, you could be that voiceover for your in the video. But
yeah, I'm sure there's workarounds for it.
Mhm.
And then the second thing that came up in our breakout group was from Haley Pop was how much bandwidth would that be taking up? And I think she was meaning like in conjunction with other things she's got going on. So I didn't have the answer to that.
That is a good question. So that's one of those things, because it is internet based, you may run into some issues if your students live in an area where their internet connection, it shouldn't be an issue unless internet connection is really slow and spotty. But for the most part, if you're on at least mobile, you should be able to access it fairly seamlessly. That's another one of those things that we'll have to take a look at as well. It looks like PCOE will also be providing additional bandwidth through Verizon for all students as needed. So that's something we can do to address that as a potential problem. Hopefully that answers your question, but we'll take a look as well.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to bring up too, is that I thought that was an option, and some of the districts are offering that too. So
okay, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you do have a student that has this need, then just make sure that you address that with your coordinator, and
Okay, thank you.
we can get that squared away, of course. Let's see, a question from Steve. The Flipgrid and Padlet can be put into Google Classroom. Student individual learning plans to use at home, like we put the link to Unique that they can do. Yeah, definitely. It's another way to get those links out to your parents and students. Let's see. Natalie, Screencastify, favorite tool last semester. It's definitely one of those. It's super simple to use. We'll talk about Screencast-O-Matic in the session later today and tomorrow, but Screencastify is also another one of those very simple to use tools that's just built right in as an extension to your Chrome browser, so you could definitely use that as well. Let's see. But as Michelle did mention, that it's typically not, the video is not as clear when using it for ASL. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's where we're going to take a look at Screencast-O-Matic, just because of the video quality. Let's see here, we've got, okay. If there are any other questions, we got a couple minutes left here before we let you go, so you can get off to your next session. But if you have any other questions, you can head on over to that Padlet and go and post them there, and we'll make sure that we get a response for you. But right now, we're going to move on to the exit survey so that we can get you checked out. So we'll go ahead and post that link in chat, and then you'll just follow that link, fill out the exit survey, so that we can get some feedback from you on how the session went today, and if there's anything we can do to make sure that we're providing the information for you that you need going forward. And also, the exit survey is going to be a record of your attendance and your participation for this session. So we'll give you a couple minutes here, and then once you're done, we will let you head on out. But thank you for joining us this morning, and hopefully you're able to take something away. Screencast-O-Matic, Natalie. In my session this afternoon, tools for developing dynamic learning activities, I'll talk about Screencast-O-Matic, and I got a couple videos, or at least a video for you there. And then also, if you're not able to attend that session, that one is from 12:15 to 1:30. And if you're not able to attend that one, we have a second session tomorrow morning from 8:30 to 9:45. That's going to be a repeat of that information, just so that we can make sure that everybody is able to kind of get the information that they need.